All right, so we are back with the second half of Genesis chapter 35. This is going to be verses 16 through 29. We are going to say goodbye to some people and hello to some others. So let's get started. At the start of chapter 35, God tells Jacob to take his family to Bethel. And they travel there, they do everything they're supposed to do, and they get to Bethel and they worship. And in verse 16, um, Rachel, who is one of the four wives of Jacob and is the mother to one of his sons, goes into labor with the second child that she is having. And she has a very hard and very difficult labor. And the midwife who was attending to her, who is helping her to deliver this baby, is kind of getting her through this labor process, says that she is having a son. And as she finds out that she's in fact had a son, it is at the same point where she is losing her life. And so she calls out his name and she names her son as she is passing from this life into the next. And she calls him Ben Onai. And that means son of my sorrow. She knows that she is dying. She knows that this is the end of her life. She knows that this baby, she's probably going to briefly see, there's not really a moment for them to have. And so of course, this is heartbreaking for her. She has wanted nothing more than a child, and she has the first son and is overjoyed and is excited and is a doting mom, and she has the second son and does not even live to see him kind of really even complete being fully born. So she calls him Ben Onai, and his father hears it. Jacob changes his name. He does not record his name as what his mother called out, the son of my sorrow, or Ben Onai. He calls him Benjamin, which is favored son, because he recognizes this is the wife that he has loved. This is the wife that he has wanted. This is the wife that he has cared the most for out of all of the wives. This is the favorite. And he recognizes that he's not going to have her anymore. And so he is planning to pass the love that he carries for her onto this child. This is now his new favorite kid. This is my absolute favorite because it's the last piece of her that I have left. And so Rachel dies and she is buried in what is considered to be Bethlehem now. And Jacob set a pillar on her grave, and that pillar is a marker. It's the pillar is like a big rock. He kind of built a little tower, kind of headstone kind of thing for her, so that there's a marker. You will see and hear places later on in the Bible where people are at the tomb of Rachel. This is because there's a marker for her grave so that people knew it was her there. And this was so that he could visit her. It is very hard to visit somebody if you don't know where they are. You kind of got a general idea. He wanted to go and be able to be near her. He wanted to have this marker so that other people would know she was here. And because she was a favorite, he wanted to favor her and honor her in this way. So we have now said goodbye to Rachel, but we've said hello to Benjamin, who is the final child of Jacob. This is the last baby that he has. This is the 12th son that he has, and he still has one daughter. So there are 13 children in total. And in verse 21, it says that he continues to travel. And you'll see that there are places where he goes by the name Jacob and places where he goes by the name Israel. And it is an interesting place because it bounces back and forth. Sometimes it seems like there is no really rhyme or reason to it. Jacob set up a pillar for Rachel in verse 20, but in verse 21, Israel journeyed. One of the things that I've come to understand on this kind of flip flop on his name is Israel speaks to his legacy. It speaks to his future. It speaks to where he's going. Jacob, that name speaks to his past and the things that he personally loves and the things that he personally holds on to and the things that he personally is attached to, not always future forward, not always legacy building. So Israel journeyed forward, and it came to pass that he dwelt in a particular land. So while they stopped and rested, Reuben went and laid with Bilhah. What that means is Reuben, who is not her son, but is another one of the sons of Jacob, went and had relations with one of his father's wives. And that is not allowed. Jacob held his peace for a moment, not certain if he was fully aware. But it does show us a little later in the next couple of chapters that he knew about it. And there is a conversation and there is a discussion about what happens because Reuben did this. And Reuben is the oldest of his sons. And so, it says Israel heard of it. So he did know. He did know, but he held his peace. He likes to hold his peace sometimes. I don't think he's real confrontational. And so it recaps in verses 23, 24, 25, and 26 the sons that he has and who they are. So Leah has 6 of his sons, and the 6 sons are Reuben, who is the firstborn, the one we just, out here acting a fool a little bit. Simeon, Levi. Simeon and Levi are the 2 that actually went and orchestrated the destruction of that city and taking those people out because their younger sister had been assaulted. Simeon and Levi. So it's Reuben, Simeon, and Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulon. Those are the first 6 of his sons. Or those are the 6 of his sons that were born to Leah. Not all of them were the first. There's a little mix. There's a couple kids in between. Now, Rachel is the wife that he wanted. He worked 7 years to get Rachel, got tricked into marrying Leah. Leah was useful. Leah was there. Leah provided him with 6 sons. But he still loved Rachel. And Rachel had given him 2 sons, Joseph, who was born several years before, and Benjamin, who was just born as Rachel passed away. Now, you have the sons of Bilhah, who is the handmaid of Rachel. She has 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. So Reuben is a brother to her sons, but not her son. He didn't come directly from her. And Zilpah is Leah's handmaid. And she has two of his sons, Gad and Asher. So those are the sons. The daughter is still in there. They just didn't list her because they listed just the sons, because the sons are, well, you know their names if you're familiar with the names of the Israelites. These are some of the Israelites that are selected. There are some that are not included. There is a son who is not included, and then there is a son who doesn't get an inheritance. And so Jacob finally, in verse 27, makes it back home. He makes it back home. Remember, he was traveling back from his uncle Laban's house to home, moving kind of slowly because he had small children. He had pregnant wives. He had baby animals and servants and things like that. So he moved really slowly getting back there. His brother comes to meet him, and this is a couple chapters back. His brother comes to meet him and comes with 400 men. Really scary situation, it seemed like, but he came peacefully. And so he sends his brother ahead and was like, I'm going to catch up. I move real slow. It's going to take us a while to get there. You go ahead and continue to live your life. I'm coming. And so in verse 27, he finally makes it. He makes it to the place where his father is, and he gets to be reunited with his brother and his father. He gets a chance to kind of go back and be able to have a moment where they're not at odds anymore. These brothers have kind of been at odds their whole lives. I think it had a lot to do with the mom's interference. But they're at a space now where they are peaceful with each other and they are okay. And so it says in 28 that the days of Isaac were 180 years. This man lived a whole good long life. Like he lived to be 180 years old. 180 years old he lived. And it was interesting because the reason why he called his sons to him was to bless them, because he was like, my eyesight's getting low. I'm older now. I can't move how I used to move. I can't do what I used to do. And I want to bless you before I die. I want to get this out of the way. And then he lived another 20 years. So that's a long 20 years is a long time. If you thought you was getting ready to go, that's a whole lot of good mornings. And so in verse 29, it says, Isaac gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people, being old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. It is important to note that Esau and Jacob buried him. They came back together. These brothers who had been at odds all this time, these brothers, Esau was like, as soon as my daddy dies, I'm going to kill Jacob, and had him on the run for 20 years. And they come together and bury their father, and peacefully. They are happy. They are reunited. So I'm going to recap. On their way to Bethel, after they leave Bethel, after they worship at Bethel, they leave and they're making their way this kind of final stretch back home to finally meet up with Esau and see his father. And Rachel gives birth. During her labor, it is very hard, and she unfortunately passes away. And she names her son Ben-Oni, or son of my sorrows. And Jacob was like, nah, he's not going to carry that his whole life. He's going to be preferred. He's going to be my favorite son. He's, the son of my right hand. This is the son of my strength. This is the son that I favor. This is the son that I care for. We talk about Jesus being at the right hand of the Father. This is his right hand son. That's the placement that he held, the level of importance that he had. He's like, this is my new favorite kid right here. Got this one. This one's my new favorite. And so she was buried, and he marks her grave. And when he marks her grave, you see later places in the Bible where people are talking about or mark it as like a landmark for where they are. And so they continued on to travel. And as they traveled along, Reuben gets the idea that, he should probably lay up with one of his dad's wives. And so Reuben now has done that. Simeon and Levi have convinced a town to get circumcised so that they could kind of make it an uneven fight and destroy this town. So his three oldest sons are out here wreaking havoc. They are not looking like really great people. But it names off the 12 of his sons. And it points out that in verse 29, that Esau and Jacob reunite and are able to bury their father together. I want to encourage us to make sure that we are not letting an old dispute hold us back, that we are not letting some hard feelings, some old arguments make us not speak to our family. I'm not asking you to move them into your house. I'm not asking you to give them everything you own. I'm not asking anything more than a conversation where you can clear the air and you can say, look, let's just let bygones be bygones, and know that you're my sister and I love you. Know that you're my brother and I care for you. You're my mom, you're my dad. And I really just want to know that you're okay. I'm not saying you got to take them on and support them and live life with them, but I am saying that you all should be able to sit peacefully at a funeral and not be at odds. You should not be worried about what's going on. And I am praying that every person that has a heart to reach out will meet someone who is receptive and has a heart for reconciliation on the other side. Okay? So, you all be blessed. Have a fantastic one.